Your guys' music is popping.
Right, isn't it? I'm still not used to that whole like slower lead-in time though. I'm thinking I've got like the whole John Williams lead-in. It's like, oh, I've got time to go to the bathroom, pop some popcorn.
That's right. A couple emails. I'm good.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday Wham. And as you can tell, we have neither Bob or Bob. I put them two together. Rob and Barb, if they were merged, it'd be Bob. But no, unfortunately, both of my normal Wednesday compatriots are out sick. And yeah, you could be out sick as an adult too. It's not just a school thing. And then Kaz is still in France. Poor Kaz. It's France.
Oh man, I'm so bummed for him.
I know. I mean, their national pastime's being rude to Americans. I can only imagine what he's going through right now. So
he seems to be smiling the whole way, though. Like every picture he posts, he seems to be smiling.
Because they're over there with a sign saying "smile," and if he doesn't, he's in trouble.
What's he doing over there?
Yeah. What's that?
What's he doing over there?
Something for work. So I'm not quite sure, to tell you the truth. So, but yeah, he's there for work-related reasons. So I think he's a spy or something. I wasn't supposed to out that. Never mind. But no, actually, I don't know what he does for work. But hopefully he'll be back.
He's definitely not a spy.
Nope, not a spy. Not a spy. Nope. We got the
he's a spy like Mr. Bean would be a spy.
Ooh.
And I mean that with utmost love because I love Mr. Bean.
You've seen that movie, right? Johnny English?
Yeah.
And it was so good they made a sequel, and yeah, that was some good stuff. But everybody, I want to thank Jose and Tom for coming in and hanging out with me today. And you want to thank them too, because otherwise you would be hearing me babble for like an hour on my own. But no, gentlemen, thank you both for coming in. Jose, could you do a little bit of introduction to yourself?
Yes. Hi, I'm Jose. I haven't been arrested. No, just kidding. No, I mean, I haven't, but I'm an inker for Cat and Mouse Vipers. I'm a penciler for Obsoletes, both books for Silverline. Check them out. And I am on the Tuesday stream, which is like the 11 o'clock to midnight. Most people are sleeping on my side.
Cool, thanks. And Tom, the man who needs no introduction, but please introduce yourself, because not everybody is so knowledgeable on Wednesdays.
I'm on I'm Tom Mason. I'm usually on the Sunday stream with Roland and Company, and I've written comics, graphic novels, TV shows, video games, whatever, and
hate mail.
So it's wonderful to have you guys with me tonight. And for folks that were tuning in because you're like, yeah, it's going to be 90s comic trivia. We are going to put that, we're going to put that on hold. So that way we can have Bob, meaning Barb and Rob, back to play the game, because I think that they were brushing up on their 90s trivia. I probably put 20 hours into prep for this thing, so it is going to be fantastic. And I told all of our Silverline friends that everybody is welcome the night that we do play. So maybe Jose will come back, and maybe Tom will come back, and we'd love to have you guys play that night.
I'm not going to put in my 20 hours, though. I'm just going to make stuff up.
So and yeah, okay, so Pops just came on and he says, none of you look like Barb.
You're just right.
20 minutes of brushing away.
Barb is very happy about that.
Take care of that. So but no, so yeah, Barb is out sick, Rob is out sick, and so today we've got us, and so we're kind of just gonna go and wing it a little bit, talk about comic things that come to mind. Discussion, we could talk process. I did have one question that came to mind. If you guys don't mind, we could kind of start off with that.
Fire away.
I started collecting seriously in junior high and then in high school. So junior high, I graduated in 87, and then high school 87 to 91. So that was like my time period. And the local comic shop that I started shopping at seriously and then wound up, that was my first job. It was a place called More Fun Comics that was in Glen Ellen, Illinois. They wound up later getting bought out by Graham Crackers Comics, which is like one of the largest, if not the largest, chain of stores. I never worked for Graham Crackers though. But yeah, so there's some history there, and I was so excited when I got one of the postcards in the mail, because we still did like mailings back then, right? And I was, just still a customer, and they were going to have a in-store signing by a real live comic book artist.
Oh wow!
And I was like, kind of got me thinking. I was so excited, and I remember it was Mark A. Nelson. It was after he was Dark Horse
He
Alien.
did the Aliens comic.
Yeah, yep. And so like I was not all that Aliens knowledgeable. I was not so knowledgeable in him, but I found out he was coming, and so I tried to like learn as much as I could. So he was the first pro artist that I ever got to meet. Incredibly cool guy. Did like an alien sketch for me on a backboard, and he was just really, really cool with everybody there. I was kind of wondering, like, if anybody else remembers, like, who their first, like, pro that they got to meet, before any of us did anything, like, when we were just fans, and if anybody had any kind of really cool stories, and we could go into other cool stories about people after the firsts as well.
Yeah. My first was my first was Dan Fraga.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
I have never got a chance to meet him yet.
I was in my 20s already. Now went to Wizard World Chicago when it was called Wizard World Chicago, right? And he was there, and honestly, I don't remember who all he was with. I think it was Rob Liefeld and them, but at the time I didn't care, right? But I had picked up a book he had. I think it was called something Gears, and I loved his artwork. Yeah, Gear Station. Thank you. And I loved it. I had it, and I'm like, I asked him if he wouldn't mind doing a sketch for me, right? So he pulls out like a 9 by 12 piece of paper and just does this quick sketch of the main female girl from Gear Station, right? Wow. And funny enough, jump ahead several years, and I loved it. I cherished it. Like, it hung on my wall. I had it wrapped in saran wrap. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know how to keep stuff protected back then. But yeah, I had it up on my wall because I loved it so much, and it really, like, man, he was just sitting there just jotting it all down. Like, that was so flipping cool. And you know what I mean? So it got me to really kind of want to draw, even though at the time I was told that I suck and I should never do it. So jump ahead several years to like 4 years ago or so. It just so happened that my mom had a box of stuff, and my mom lives in Indiana because that's where I'm originally from. And my mom's like, Michael, I'm sending you a box of stuff that you had in the garage. I'm like, all right, cool. And sure, like, it was like photo albums that my wife had and whatnot, and it had that picture or that he drew for me, right? And then like, I think it was a couple weeks later, I found out that Dan was going to be at one of my local shows. So I actually went to the show. Like, I was already planning on tabling there anyway, but like, I was like, dude, I telling my comic shop guy who I was tabling with, like, bro, I'll be right back. I got to go meet Dan Fraga again. He's never going to remember who I am, but I got to go meet him again. And so I went over there, and I was like, hey man, let's let you know, I've been following your exploits for a while. Like, you were the first sketch I ever got at a convention and whatnot. Like, I've been following you when you lived up in California and you moved to Georgia, like, and just telling like all the different stuff that I've been watching, like, that he's been doing. He's like, that's so awesome. And I know he was doing a remake of Black Flag?
Black Flag, yeah. It's still in the making, from what I understand.
Yeah. And I was like, dude, I want to be posted on that because I want to get that. You know what I mean? I want to put it on it and the crowdfunder, whatever you do, because I want that book. It's like, that's like, you have no clue how much it meant to me that you did that picture. Like, it hung on my room my entire like teenage life, right? Or not, sorry, my early adult life, because I was 20 something, right? And so he did another quick little sketch, which I have packed up because I haven't unpacked everything since we bought the house. But he gave me a copy of the first Black Flag book he did, and he signed it for me. And like, oh man, I was like, oh nice. My gosh, dude, that means so much to me. It's so awesome.
You've gone full circle.
Yeah, I thought it was super cool. And then he even asked like, oh, like, because he'd asked me about Chicago. I was like, he goes, yeah, you're from down here. I was like, no, I moved down here, and told him like I went to art school, and like now I do comic books on my with Silverline Comics, and like I'm just, you know what I mean, doing the dream. And one of the first things I remember you saying, because I went to a panel you did there that same year, and you said, if you want to get into comic books because you want to be rich and famous, find another job. Like, literally those words. It goes, I went into storyboarding for commercials and whatnot. Like, find another job if you think you're going to just make it rich in this. And I was like, I took that with me everywhere, like just in my brain, even going through art school, like that never left my brain. You know what I mean? And, it's funny because it's kind of what I'm doing now solely, but my wife and I have opened up a birth center. You know what I mean? We have a business that, that facilitates the ability for me to sit here and do this. So
Everybody needs a job,
right.
Yeah.
So,
because
Amen.
comics don't pay.
Yeah.
I wish they did. I wish they paid, but they never really have.
Why do you think that is?
There's a few guys that do great, and then there's a tier that can't make a living at it.
right.
Tom, why do you think that folks have never been able to like get traction in that regard?
Because I think the comics don't pay well enough to support a cost of living. Like if you're a single guy and you're happy with a 1-bedroom apartment and you don't want to go date somebody, and I mean guy, but also women too.
Yeah.
If you don't want to have a relationship with somebody, if you don't want to go out to movies and dinner and drinks and whatever, you don't want to socialize with friends and spend money, you don't want to travel, you just want to make your comics. You can live, essentially, if that's what you call living. But once you start to be a participant in actual life, you need more money than comics can pay. So,
and I meant more like from like the business standpoint, because I know you've been knee deep in like, you know, all of that. And like your resume on that stuff is phenomenal. So like, why do you think like people, and like, was it because they never unionized that they could push for better, like, you know, pay or benefits? Or
it's hard to unionize when the other people will just undercut you and nobody will care. And everybody says, well, comics pay roughly the same as they did 20 years ago. They should pay more, which is true. They should, but the sales don't justify the income for the publisher to be able to pay the creators their due. And so the best thing creators can get is royalties, but then, a book still has to sell or stay in print in order to produce those. Right. And so it's, or get movie money. But if you work for Marvel or DC, you sort of top out at a certain movie money level. And then sometimes guys hit like the Turtles guys and they get, they can stop and they can just be rich. Yeah. And so I think, or Frank Miller or, somebody like that. But other guys, we're basically the poor working class.
I know, was it J. Scott Campbell? Like he works on books here and there, books there, his own books and everything. But he was even doing artwork specifically for Disney to sell at like the Disney shops and stuff like that. Right. You know what I mean? Like specific, like original art and prints and whatnot. Like so, like it's not even like you said. It's not. You have to do something else. You can't just.
Well, and I think and I think the thing is that you can't, like if you're a writer, you shouldn't just write comics. You should try to write whatever it is, novels or TV shows, or, I worked in marketing for a while, in corporate marketing. So I wrote press releases and, speeches and stuff like that. I wrote articles for stuff. And so it's just like, I didn't really want to be a comic book writer. I wanted to be a writer. So I never wanted to have a job. I wanted to have a bunch of temporary jobs that I could string together and sort of make a living at. And that way, because I get bored easily, when something ends and I work on it for half a year or whatever, I just have another job. And so that was always my goal, but I never thought of just being a comic book writer. And I think artists who want to be just comic book artists are selling themselves short. It's not that, I wanted to be a comic book artist, but now I have to draw storyboards. It's more like, no, I'm a working artist, and a working artist I do conventions and I do storyboards and I do local commercial work and I do advertising illustration and I do Neil Adams was the perfect example of this. He did all of that because that's what he was. He was a working artist, also a great comic book artist, but he was also a storyboard guy and an advertising guy and did comic strips for a while when he was starting out. And so I think I'm more interested in the working part of it than I only want to do one thing.
Like if somebody was, an automotive tech, it's like they're not just an engine guy. They need to be able to do mufflers and brakes and everything else. You could have a speciality that or something that you prefer, but holistically, you need to be able to work on the vehicle. And
you got to have you've got to be flexible because the one job thing for freelance people is over. And I think people sell themselves short. It's like, and I think you can learn, like if you're an artist and you want to do comics, you do comics for a while, then you get a storyboard gig. Well, that stretches you a little bit. So when you come back to comics, you've learned some stuff. And then if you do advertising illustration, you've learned some stuff. You bring it back to comics. And if you do other, if you go to the mall and you do caricatures for, $20 a piece for a weekend, you've learned something there too, which could be that you never want to do that again and you want to go back to comics. But there's all kinds of ways that you can try to support yourself as a working artist beyond just comic books.
My buddy Bill Mouse, I know he did caricatures. I want to say it was at SeaWorld or something similar in like the Virginia Beach area back in the day. And this is not like a Bill story, but I just, was thinking, like you said, take something from every experience. And that's something that I tell my son too. I'm like, learn something no matter where you get that information. They don't have to know that you got the information from reading a comic book or watching this movie, but when you have this knowledge base that you could drop and people are like, ooh, he's well read and he's knowledgeable, just take it. One of the things I do think that we have, in the industry, somewhat problematic, and I see it at shows, and I even have the problem too, the reaching out and the talking to people and that customer interaction. When people are working and doing caricatures, they have to chat with the people. They have to talk to them, so even if somebody is doing caricatures and said, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life, I can see the very valuable skill of interaction.
Yeah. And also the great thing about that, like if you're a comic book guy and you get a job doing storyboards, you're actually networking. You don't necessarily realize it because it's not like a cocktail party you're networking, but you're working for people who are working in the storyboard business. If they like you and they know that, Jose also does comics, then 6 months down the road, they run into a guy who's looking for a comic book artist. And it's like, hey, I worked with a guy, Jose, you should check him out. And so it's a cycle where you make contacts in other industries when you work in them. And so that sounds obvious, but a lot of people don't understand that work leads to work.
No, that's a great way to look at it. Tom, you're not off the hook. First professional that you remember meeting.
I'm a generation older than you guys, so I
know that's why I'm really intrigued as to who it might be.
So my experience was a New York Comic Con I think it was at the Statler. I'd gone up there. I was really young, but at that convention, I don't know who I met first, but I met and had had a brief convention table conversation with George Perez, John Byrne, Marshall Rogers, Sherry Flanagan, Dave Sim, and a bunch of other people. And it's again, it's like with Jose and Dan, they don't remember me, and they would never, nothing would come of that. However, they were all very welcoming to put up with me and my dumb questions. And because I didn't know how to converse with a comic book person, because I didn't really understand how comic books were made. I just knew that, I wasn't going to talk to a writer because I don't know what are they? They type. I don't know what that means. But they were drawing, and I could watch them draw, and that was fascinating to me. So I got sketches from Byrne and Marshall Rogers and Perez they were doing them because the old days they were doing them for $10 a piece. And so and I also met Wally Wood. Wally Wood was there.
Oh, cool.
So end stage Wally Wood. So he was not he's not in the best of health and not chatty, but that sort of set me on my first experience in comics outside of just reading them was going to a convention, and that was mind blowing. Everything was right there. There's the entire business. Oh, I also met Steranko too.
Wow.
But
that dude does not change.
No, he still had that weird hair.
Still does. Did you see him at New York City Comic Con?
Yes.
I saw pictures. I never actually saw him in person until in New York, and I'm just like, he's a vampire.
The thing that amazed me about him, and I still remember this to this day, is he was the first person who had booth babes. He had at his New York table. There was himself, and he was mostly talking, and then he had two really hot young 20-year-old women in skimpy outfits, not costumes, but outfits. And they were doing the selling. And so that was the first time I ever saw somebody put that plan into work.
And it works.
It does work.
It works.
I get that
really well.
Because a lot of nerdy guys are just, they'll come over just to talk to the hot women.
Yeah, and they've been doing that with car shows for
Oh
ages
yeah,
and
that's
you know.
exactly
Yeah.
right.
So yeah, just bringing that over to our hobby instead, and yeah, that is the target demographic, especially back in the day. You know,
booth parades was definitely a new thing to see going to a convention. I've seen it before because my family likes to go, like you said, likes to go to car shows. We like to see lowriders. We like to see, you know what I mean?
now you got the song stuck in my head.
Lowrider, dude, that's on my perpetual playlist. It has to be. It's our national anthem.
That's the war version, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Hispanic national anthem. I don't care what nobody says. But yeah, like, I mean, I grew up watching, Blood In, Blood Out, American Me, all those movies, like those Hispanic Latino movies where you see all the lowriders and stuff like that. So like anytime there's a show that's like, oh, like there's a local car show with lowriders and whatnot, like let's go. And of course you see, scantily clad women there and whatnot. But to see it at conventions was definitely an interesting, like, oh.
So here's my ignorance. I understand what a lowrider is. What are the cars with the hydraulics that go up and down?
Those are lowriders.
Is it okay?
Yeah, because they have the hydraulics in it and the front.
Those are like Hot Wheels to me, where it's just like if you see those at a car show or see those on display, or whatever, they're working their hydraulics, where the other cars are just sitting there.
Right. Well, some of them are customized to do, and they'll have like bouncing contests to see how high a car can bounce up, and they'll
awesome.
it'll jack up the back end and whatnot, so that it'll clear when it goes to doesn't hit the ground and hit the road, but they'll erase it up and they'll bounce them. Like it's wild.
I love
I
those
remember
guys.
growing up, the cars were great. But like, me being a teenager, being a young kid and whatnot, we were always interested in the bikes. Not that I could have ever afforded one, maybe the lowrider bicycles, those were trippy.
Oh man. No, I love anybody who thinks of that stuff and can actually execute it. Because that to me is genius.
Yeah, and I never really thought about, lifting up the back of the car so that way it doesn't smash, to get it up higher. So now you're talking physics, you're talking engineering. I mean, there's some major work that goes into that. That's pretty cool.
And the actual building of it, would you call that the engineering, or is that another skill?
I'd say that's another skill.
Yeah.
Designing it, putting it on paper, the schematics, all, the math, make sure that would work on, but actually then hands-on doing it. Oh, totally different skill.
You need like a couple of different teams with different specialties. No, I'm totally envious of that.
Let's see. All right. Any of you guys have a question, or you want me to come up with another one?
I'm here to look pretty.
What's that?
I'm here to look pretty.
So you're not the brains, just the brawn. Yeah.
Never have I ever claimed to be the brains of an operation.
I've never claimed to be the pretty one. So
right.
All right.
I've had like, hey, we need to get across that bridge. I'm gonna have to figure that out. If I throw you across, we could do this. Like, all right, let's go.
Right. Yeah. We got to build a trebuchet.
Right.
I'm just kind of picturing like the catapults and Monty Python Holy Grail. What is your name? What is your quest? And wrong answer. All right, so let's talk, the dark side then. We don't have to drop names. That would be fine. Have any of us had a convention experience as a fan, not necessarily like a what's it called? An industry pro, a colleague, that's the word I'm looking for. A bad interaction, a bad run-in with a pro at a show, where a meeting just went to shit.
Oh God. Yeah. I don't think I have that I can recall. I've had a couple of bad fan interactions that were not
right.
They were not good. But most of the pros, like I've learned over time to sort of read the room. Mm-hmm. And I can tell when a pro, like I was at the DC booth, and I don't know if you know him or not, but there's a guy named Jim Chadwick who was an editor there, and I'd gone.
The guy who did Concrete?
No, that's Paul Chadwick.
Oh, okay. I was like, I knew Chadwick. Okay.
And so, so I was there to meet Jim Chadwick. We were going to go to lunch or we're going to meet at the DC booth where he worked, and we were going to set up a time to go to lunch or dinner or whatever. And I go there, and he's talking to Michael Davis, who was an artist for DC. He had done Green Arrow, The Longbow Hunters, whatever. And so I'm standing there just hanging out, waiting for my turn to talk to Jim. And I realize right across from me in the group is Bill Duke, the actor from Predator.
Oh, okay.
And he's also a director, and he's done a ton of great movies. And I tried. They're talking about stuff, and I knew in my head, don't be a fanboy, because I'm a big fan of Bill Duke. It's like, don't be a fanboy. Don't be a fanboy. Don't go up and say, man, love you in Predator, dude. Don't do it. Just keep your distance. But if you ask to join in the conversation, join in, but don't be a dick. And so that's sort of been my philosophy all along, is that learn to sort of read the room, figure out where that person is in that conversation or on the floor, and do that. Because I ran years ago, I took my 2 kids to San Diego, and my oldest kid, he would have been 13 at the time. He taps me on the shoulder and goes, "Dad, that's Matt Groening." And I said, "All right, that's cool.
Simpsons?
Do you want to meet him? They're the Simpsons guy. Do you want to meet him?" And they go, no, yes, no, yes. So I went over, and I tracked down. He was alone. He was just walking the floor, so he wasn't in the middle of something. I just went up to him and said, "Hi, Matt. My name is Tom Mason. I'm here with my 2 kids. They're big fans of The Simpsons, even though they're young, and they would love to get a picture with you if that's okay." And he said, "As long as it's not a thing that you post on the internet, that's fine." And he said, "Bring them over." And so my kids went over there. We got a couple of photos with them, and he went on his way, and my kids were beaming the whole time. And then when we got back, I got the picture developed, and they went to school. They could not stop talking about it. It's like, we met the Simpsons guy. They didn't know necessarily that he was anything more than the Simpsons guy, but that was it. So you just sort of learn over time not to be that dickish fan, and most interactions work fine. So,
what you said that you said you had a bad fan interaction?
Yeah, there was a guy, like he knew where I was at this is back in the Malibu Comics days, where we had a booth, so it's easy to find me if you want to find me and yell at me. And so he came running up, and he got like a close talker. He got like too close, where it's like, if he's really mad, he could probably stick me with
like personal boundaries are being
so right away, first of all, he's angry, which I don't know why. Second of all, he's a space violator, so he's way too close. And so he's already violated.
That's the name of a book. I want to write a book called Space Violator.
Space Violator.
I'm writing that down.
You should kickstart that. And then he was mad because I had rejected one of his projects that he had pitched, and he was there to convince me to reconsider by being angry at me and telling me that his stuff was better than the stuff that I had been publishing. And so essentially demanding
really a horrible strategy.
Yeah.
I can't even make a joke about that, because that's just stupid.
Because it doesn't work. It's not, and I don't know how he thought that his antagonism would be a winning argument. Like, I would suddenly go, "Dude, you're right. Let me rethink that."
You passed the test, you're in.
Because the thing that person doesn't realize is, it takes, if you're doing a 4-issue miniseries, that's basically 9 or 10 months of work that I would be interacting with this guy over that course of the time. Is that really someone I want to, regardless of the quality of the work, is that someone I want to spend that amount of time with helping his book along? It's like, no, I do not.
This isn't a fan interaction, but I'm on a Facebook group, like comics editors and everything. And there was a guy who had posted, a story about, a story that he had written, on spec. He was trying to pitch it to Marvel. And he was very intentional about the main character of the story being shown from behind walking into this building. and the editors that he had talked to and said no, the character should be shown from front, splash page. And he had his post and he's talking about the editor said this and I understand that, but this is the impact I'm trying to get and this is why it would be better, and then put it out there for people to compare, compare their thoughts. So nobody responded for a day or so. So I gave a thoughtful response saying, editor, 100% right. Here's why. Kind of went through the stuff.
Yeah.
And then he wrote this lengthy explanation. He wasn't a dick, but he was overly explanatory as to why he was right, and based upon what he was trying to get across, that this is the right way. And somebody else had written something and he wrote this diatribe underneath him too, and I'm just thinking, brother, if people know this is how you act, nobody's going to want to work with you. No, they're for editors are there for a reason. Also, does every editor always make the right call? Hell no. Does anybody ever make the right call all the time? Hell no. But it's wow, when you get overly defensive,
yes, and
repeat, people are going to be going, even if this guy's right, I don't like his approach. I don't want to work with him.
Also, the thing is, if you post something for criticism or you send stuff around to friends for criticism and everybody has the same note, it's you. It's not.
Yeah. But yeah, that was just when you had mentioned about the guy saying to you, Tom, why you made the wrong decision and that you should change it. And, he will continue to harass you until such time that you see the light of day. Yeah. It made me think of that reason.
The thing is, I'm comfortable making the wrong decision, but I'm the one making the decisions. So I get to decide. And so, for right or wrong. And I think in this case, I was right because I don't want to work with that guy. It's always a guy. It's never anybody else. It's always a guy.
It's always that guy.
Yeah.
Jose,
I don't have any negative interactions with female creators who are out looking for work or wanted to talk about process or add questions or whatever. None. But guys, always too aggressive, always too demanding, always too insecure, always too weird.
Always too weird.
Yeah.
There are some weird folks
just
out
named
there.
My whole childhood.
Yeah, but you grew up. You grew out of it.
You got married. Somebody at least saw past the weirdness.
Listen,
and you've been married for a long time.
Yep.
You bought a house. You raise animals.
21 years.
Yeah. So you look at that.
I don't know if I've had any bad experience. I've definitely had moments where I'm just I'm not dealing with this, right? I love talking about my process. That's the one thing I realize at conventions, because I'm so not good at pitching myself. You know what I mean? I'm no good at pedaling, barking, you know what I mean, at my table. So people come up hi, how you doing? Please look at my stuff, right? And it started off like that. And now it's yeah, look at my stuff. This is what I did. They ask even the remotest questions about oh man, I wouldn't know day one how to do that. Oh, let me tell you how I did that. Yeah. Right. I love talking about my process. And in doing so, I've learned that I do enjoy doing portfolio reviews as well. Right. And I got asked to do one. Someone's hey, would you mind looking at my stuff? I'm sure. Right. So I did. And I gave some critiques, and I did the whole Jim Lee thing. Jim Lee went on record before saying that when he did portfolio reviews at shows and stuff like that, he always had a system he worked. He gave 3 positives and 3 negatives. Right. And always the positives first and then the negatives, so that, you build them up and then you kind of,
tell them what they can refine.
Yeah. Tell them what they can refine. Right. And so I take that when I do portfolio reviews into heart as well. Right. So obviously I'm looking through this person's portfolio and I was this looks really good. I like this, this looks really good. This is something that, we're taught in school how to do as well. You know what I mean? Just so that they know hey, they're teaching this at school. I'm on the right path, right? I'm learning something. And then I get to the critique part, and everything I said of the 3 things was, oh, well, I did this because of this, and I did this because of this. Well, this is because blah, blah, blah. I was and at the end I was okay.
Right. What can you do?
Right. So no real bad interaction, but you asked me what I thought, because I would imagine you want some kind of feedback to grow from, because I know I do. And anytime I took my stuff to shows and whatnot, I was like, hey, would you mind like just perusing my portfolio? Any critique would be wonderful, right? And they're like, oh yeah, no problem. Like, you don't have to be nice. Like, if it's garbage, let me know it's garbage, but let me know where I can correct my garbage or where I can learn from my garbage. Like I don't care. Like, tear me apart. I don't like. That's how I learn.
Even if you only get one thing, like even if you only get like one nugget, it's still worth it. Because if you get 30 people looking at it and you get 30 nuggets, that's
right. And you take it home. You're like, this is what he said. Like, this is something I should correct. Take that into consideration for the next thing I'm working on. Right.
Because I've done a lot of portfolio reviews over the years. And one thing I've always tried to do is like, I don't want to be the guy that breaks them.
Right.
Like, I don't want to be, because I know from my own experience and from others, like when you're a kid and you want to draw, you want to write, even if you're not thinking about comics, there are always people behind you going, I'm not supportive of this. Right. in their own way. That's kid stuff. You'll never make a living. You should give it up. You're not any good. It's whatever.
Dude, you're 9, I was told I should stop drawing.
Right. You're 9 or 10 or 11 or whatever. Don't break those kids. Just, you don't have to tell them they're great, but you could encourage them to continue the drawing. It's like, you're not there now, but if you keep doing this in a couple of years, I'd like to see your work again. And so just, give them the encouragement and support that they might not be able to get elsewhere.
Roland had a kid come up and talk to me and Pete when Pete was here for Daytona Beach Comic Con.
Okay. Peter Clinton, right?
Yes, sir. Peter
Clinton. British guy.
He goes, go talk to Jose and Pete, because they went to the Kubert school and he wanted to go to the Kubert school, so he wanted to ask questions. And so right away he's like, oh, so like, if you go to the Kubert school, like you're gonna get hired by Marvel. I was like, whoa, back up. Like, first off, no. Like, first, let me tell you that the Kubert school is rough. Like, it's a tough school to go through because everything is more intense. You know what I mean? It's an accelerated program. Like, was it our first week? I think we had to have 3 full comic book pages penciled in and whatnot, or 5 or something like that. 5 pages, I think it was. You know what I mean? In the first week. And they all look like garbage. Right? They all look like garbage. We know that. But the way it was explained to us is our first year, they're going to break us down. Our second year, they're going to give us new fundamentals. And our third year, they're going to show us how to apply those fundamentals to our work, right? Which is, I think, is a great program. So many people did not make it past the first year. I think we started off with 5 classrooms of 20 or 24 students. And then we ended up with 3 classrooms of 12 each by my third year. So a lot of people dropped out, a lot of people, but I was explaining to this kid this, right? I was like, listen, it's hard. And when you go in, expect it to be hard. Don't expect to go in there like, oh, as soon as I get out, I'm going to work for Marvel. I'm going to work for DC. You're not. As soon as you get out there, you're going to have to work harder because you have nobody behind you to say, this has to be done tomorrow. This has to be done next week. You have to be in the mindset to do that yourself. And
also,
go ahead.
Well, that's a terrible goal anyway, to work for Marvel or DC. It's like, I'm going to go to school and my dream is to work for Marvel or DC. It's like, as a working comic book artist, that's like winning the lottery for a lot of people. Places, they're not open to you. So what are you really trying?
I went in with the goal of I just want to, I already knew how to draw. I knew that, right? But there was a lot more I could learn, and I'm learning from professionals. You know what I mean? Right. I want to build upon my fundamentals. You know what I mean? And because the one thing I can draw, but I didn't really know a lot about narrative storytelling. And so I went in there, I will soak it all in. There were some students who went in there when they were critiqued. They're like, yeah, that's my style. And
and that's called unemployment. Yes.
Right?
Your style's called unemployment.
You can't take critique and you're gonna reason out why. Okay, whatever. But anyway, so I talked to this kid about this, right? Last year, I was at Miami SuperCon, right? And I was there with my wife, and she was tabling with me, which doesn't hardly ever happen. She rarely goes to a show with me. But this kid that I had talked to comes up to me. He's like, hey, do you remember me? I was like, yeah, I remember. We talked at Daytona Beach Comic Con. He was in his second year at the Kubert School, and he's like, I just wanted to come and tell you, because I found out you were going to be here. I just wanted to come and tell you that I absolutely take with me every day the wisdom that you gave me about the Kubert School. And towards the end of my first year, I was getting real down about I'm I'm not going to be able to finish this. And your words started popping in my head again, that about just having to hustle through it and having to get past it. If you feel like you're blocked, you're going to get past that. You're going to keep moving. Like just stick it out. Right. And you're like, the only reason I'm in my second year is because those words kept bouncing around in my head. Like your words, you know what I mean? And they weren't even comments. They weren't even like encouragement. It was reality. And I really needed that. I'm like, holy cow. Dude,
how did you not tear up at that point? I would have been bawling like a baby. I mean,
right?
That is so
I was like,
awesome.
oh my gosh, dude. Wow.
You got to hug it out.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and he was like, oh, like, I don't know if you know this, but I'm in my second year at the Cuba School. I was like, yeah, I know. Like, how do you know? I was like, I've been following you on your progress on Instagram. Like anytime you post something, or anytime the Cuba School posts something, I always go through and slow down the video to see if I can find you.
Because I don't see that reality check as a negative though. That's not like you can't do it. That's like just here's how to prepare for it. Here's what you're going to be looking at. Just be ready. Yep. So it's not like it's not a negative in that you should give up now. It's more like just be ready.
Right. Soak it in. Everyone there knows what they're doing.
Yes.
Accept that and accept everything they have to say. And just soak it up like a sponge. True.
Because aren't all the Cuberts there now? Like both at least two of the Cubert boys, and I know that the Cubert's daughter is there, right?
How to word that? Yes, I think she's teaching one of the classes. She also does online classes.
Yeah, because she's also a DC editor.
Oh,
I don't know the answer to that question.
All right.
But yeah, and I know. So Andy and Adam aren't there. But Andy will come back. Like he came back every year. I think I want to say before the end of the first semester or first half of the school year, and would do special projects. No, it was the second half, and do special projects with some of the senior students and whatnot, and some of the other students. So yeah,
you guys
like he's not there on the regular, but yeah.
Do you guys want to hear my Adam Kubert story?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So same comic store, more fun comics. At that point, I'm in college and I'm working there part-time, right? And it was after Spirits of Vengeance launched.
Nice.
And he came out to do a signing. And I'm working that day. And dude is just so cool. Dude is just so chill. He's so nice to everybody. And I was just like really enjoying hanging out with this guy. So this is early 90s, he was going to go outside for a smoke. He's like, you want to come with? And I don't smoke, but back in the day, everyone would have one. So I'm like, I'm going to go smoke with him. Yes. So, I go out with him and I'm looking through his portfolio all day long. And like, he was just so cool. He's so chatty. And there, I was starting my love for original comic art. I had a couple pieces of original art. And I'm looking through his portfolio, and there's a piece in his portfolio that was published in an X-Force annual. And it is this amazing full splash. It's got Domino. It's got Boom Boom, who I love. It's got Shatterstar. And I asked him, how much is that? And he's like, well, I'm not really itching to sell that one. That's my first published Marvel work. He's like, but I'll let it go for $250. And so keep in mind, $250, and everybody's like, oh, great price now. That's a lot of money for a college kid back in the early 90s.
Yes, it
is. But it was such a wonderful day. He was such a cool guy, and I loved the piece so much. I called my parents. I'm like, can you guys go to my room? I told them my hiding spot for my money. Could you please bring me my money? Mom runs my money over. And then I was going to ask him, would you please make it out to John? But before I even get a chance to do that, he's like, you know what? Listen, if you let me personalize it to you, I'll bring it down to 200 because you wanted me to not like flip it. And I go, to tell you the God's honest truth, I was just about to ask you to do that anyway. He's like, all right then, and signed it. And to this day, I still have that piece.
Nice.
And I always will.
That's a good story.
So cool. And it was just such an amazing memory. And the guy was just so awesome. So, yeah.
That is a good story.
Yeah, that was good. There's some cool stuff. There's some good people out there. You guys want to hear a bad story?
Yes.
Or should we just leave stuff on positives?
No. I love.
Okay.
I only learn from the bad stories.
So I shall not name the artist. But there is an artist that has been mostly at Marvel, also has done some DC.
All right.
And I met him at a comic convention. I was only going to be there for one day because I was working at the store the other days. And I asked him if he would do like a convention, piece of Boom Boom for me. I love Boom Boom, especially when like Liefeld was drawing her. And the artist had recently drawn her in an issue of a book that he was doing. Okay.
All right.
But so he agreed that he would do it that day. It wasn't much money. I think it was $20, but again, it was like 90s. But he wanted references. So I went and bought a couple like Liefeld New Mutants to bring him over, so he had those. He was gone from the table. He was gone from the table. He was gone from the table. The con was over for the day. Two guys that worked at the store with me were going to be there because we had tables. So they're like, we'll get your piece tomorrow. I'm like, thanks, guys. Well, they had to like hunt him down all day long. Well, I have to go do this Marvel thing and I'm going to do this thing. And so I finally did get the sketch and it wasn't good. And like you could tell that it was like hacked out. And that was kind of disappointing. So a couple shows later, maybe a year later. And I didn't get my reference books back either. So like, those things cost me like $5 each. So, and I know I was under 21 because the two guys that I was working with at the store had brought some rumplements to the next show next to my show in my story, and I couldn't partake because I wasn't 21 yet. Right. But the artist is there. And so I go up to him and, he's got like a little bit of a line. Rob Liefeld's also there, and Liefeld's my favorite artist. Like everybody knows I love Liefeld, right? And he has like, Liefeld has like lines up the wazoo, this artist who's also working on some top tier books at that point. Smaller line, that's fine. It's not like a dick size competition or nothing. And so, I get up to, I'm looking through the portfolio. I think I bought a piece or two even. And I was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me from like another show. He's like, no, why would I remember you? I was like, nice. Well, I go, well, I'd asked you to do, a sketch for me. And he's like, I go, do you remember this? And I pulled out the sketch. He's like, oh, I could tell in his face, I'm like, I'm back, right? And so I said, sketch, it wasn't, what I had hoped for, but by any chance, do you still have the references I gave you? He's like, oh man, that was like, whatever, a year ago, or, he's like, oh, that was a year ago. I wouldn't have those. And he goes, what were they anyway? I was like, well, they were a couple issues of New Mutants. He's like, oh, New Mutants, big deal. And keep in mind, the other thing I need to tell you here is not just me at the table, but there were kids here too. Okay. So like 8-year-old, 10-year-olds. And so he's like, oh, like, New Mutants, big deal. I was like, well, they were Rob Liefeld New Mutants. He's like, oh, Rob Liefeld, big fucking deal. And I got pissed. Yeah, sorry, I swore, Roland, but it's for the story. I'm like, I got pissed because these are kids. I'm like, don't do that. And I go, and then I turned into dick mode. And I'm like, oh, did I hit a sore spot there? And he's like, sore spot about what? I'm like, that he has more fame than you. He has more money than you. And I point to the line. I go, obviously he's got more fans than you, and just like he mumbled something and I mumbled something and walked off. And that was my bad interaction with a pro story.
Don't piss off John. That's what I'm learning today.
Right? That's what I'm hearing. Yeah.
So,
I know the artist. So once you go off the air, I'm going to guess.
Oh yeah, cool. That'd be awesome. Yeah, we'll talk off air for sure. That's it. I have no problem sharing who that is.
Like, that is a big no for me. I mean, I've been known to occasionally slip some profanities in my everyday vocabulary.
Oh, I've got a potty mouth like you wouldn't believe.
I try my best not to, but especially at a show, you will almost never hear me use profanity.
You gotta be on your best behavior because everybody's there,
right? And especially the kids. Like I love it when kids come up because I've got stuff in my portfolio that is very like everything I have is kid friendly. You know what I mean? I don't do anything like the way when I do commissions and whatnot. I tell people, listen, if I can't show my kids, I won't do the commission. Like just know that, like it won't happen unless you like so risque. I can do risque because they're covered up, right? But full on like nudity and stuff like that, I won't do it. Like, but man, like that includes language because kids look up to you, man. You know what I mean? Like I will tell you,
kids are there for the show. To them, it's an adventure. It's like you
Right.
don't want to spoil that adventure for them. You don't want to be that person.
Right.
like I
You know,
gave a girl a sticker, and it was like one of my stickers. It's a round sticker. It's a hollow sticker, right? But it was a digital painting I did of my wife's cockatiel in a Admiral's jacket, right? And so I made it because I really liked it. I thought I was so happy of it. And I made stickers of it. And this little girl came up and she was like looking at all the stuff and whatnot. And so I just gave her the sticker. Like 2 shows later, her and her parents showed up. She's like, "That's the guy that gave me the sticker." I'm like, "Oh, hi." You know what I mean? The kids remember that. If you're gonna sit there and just like foul mouth everywhere, kids are gonna remember that too. So I'd rather be the guy that they remember fondly, not
Also,
the guy
the thing is that it's because of the internet now. Like stuff that you did 10 years ago at a show, if you were a jerk or whatever, that kid grew up. They're 10 years older now. They're gonna post it online. Oh yeah, I remember when I met Tom at a show and he was what a jackass. It's like, well, I don't want that coming back 10 years later.
Or talking about it on like a
Right.
Silverline podcast 30
Right.
years
So I'd
later.
rather, I try not to be that guy in person, and I definitely try not to be that guy at a show because people, influential people are around, and I don't want to be the bad memory that kids take home,
right?
or that anybody takes them.
You don't need to be the bad boy at a comic convention, but at least be on your best behavior. Your mama raised you one way, right?
Well, also the thing is, I think of a convention as a show, and so I'm putting on a show. What kind of show do I want to put on? Well, I want to be the best version of myself because I'm representing me and my work and whatever, and so I'm in for the show.
Right. Yeah, it's work. It really is. But like
it is work, but it's fun work because I don't think other jobs have that kind of thing.
No.
Yep.
No, I know when I was I've been on a hiatus for shows for a couple of years with everything going on personally, but it would always be such a rush, and then the couple days afterwards, it's like I need vacation days now for like recovery, because I usually would be doing Chicago, and I did do a little bit of travel, but not too much. And but it was just so great, and I was drained and I was exhausted afterwards, but like in a good way,
Right.
it always rekindled like oh my God, this is what I want to do. This is what I love doing.
That's the thing that I find too. Yeah, I'm tired and yeah, I'm going to need a day after the show. However, I'm also energized because I've talked to a bunch of people. I've met a couple of new people. I've seen what other people are doing, and I'm very excited by some new work that I've seen. And, I may have found a creator I never heard of. I may have got a couple of books that I never heard of that I didn't know existed. And my enthusiasm is higher than it was before the show. And it wasn't like I was down, like, oh, comics suck or whatever. And then it's like, yay, comics are great. It's more just like I realize why I like comics so much.
Yeah, it's a good way to remember and get it refreshed.
Yes.
Right.
I wouldn't get that if I worked for DuPont and I went for their convention.
Take 2 months off. That's what I did. I took all of December and all of January off because I was like, man, I need to rest. I need to spend time with my family.
Those are the worst months anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
You're good. You're fine.
Yeah, people don't do a lot of cash that time of day for shows or anything because Christmas and all that stuff. And January and February are usually kind of bad too. So because people are getting
the weather is screwy and people don't have any money. So
That's
fair. I had gone to a show, I want to say it was 1998, where I met Francesco, who is a local Chicago artist, and he's done some stuff, Marvel, DC, great guy. He was so nice. They did the show on Halloween, and it was so empty. And then they had like their artist alley in a separate room elsewhere in the hotel.
Wow.
So and so I was there, just as a fan. And so like these poor folks that were there were like down this hallway, down that hallway. It's like a whole labyrinth thing. And you had to you had to know to go look for the artist alley room. That was the worst setup I ever saw. for a show. The poor people, it's like, they don't have the plague. You don't need to sequester them.
Right.
But he was really cool. He did a couple pieces for me. First, my sniper and rook stuff. He's like, I'm like, would you mind doing some pieces? He's like, I'm not busy. I was like, thank you so much. And I actually ran into him in real life, just out and about. A couple months later, and he's like, "Oh, come on over. I'll show you the studio sometime." And it was just really, really cool. But
cool.
yeah, the shows sometimes when they're not overly busy, it's kind of nice when you do get to talk to people.
Dude, I had a great conversation with Brian Polito one year. He had a panel on doing LLCs and whatnot, and I was just getting to the point of like wanting to do stuff for myself. And so after the panel, I was like, hey, is there any way I can ask you more questions about the LLC? I just didn't want to occupy all the time while, people had their hands up for all kinds of other stuff. He's like, oh yeah, come to my booth. We'll talk about it. Man, I went to his booth. He had all his booth babes like selling stuff and whatnot. And he sat there for like 30 minutes just going over LLC with me. Like, so I could understand it. I was like, oh man, like I know that this is a lot of time away from yours. Like, oh, don't worry about it. We're good. Like, holy cow, like freaking nicest dude.
He is a very good guy, and I'm very happy for his success.
Yeah, and then I've had Afua Richardson, who to this day I claim is my mentor. She taught me how to do digital inks over AOL Instant Messenger. Not to date myself, but that's old. I've been around for a minute, right? But yeah,
did you get the dial-up sound?
Yes, I did at the time, in fact. But she would send me screenshots of her settings, her process, and whatnot. That's how I learned how to digitally ink. Before,
that is so cool.
Yeah, before Clip Studio, before my iPad and all that. I used to wake them, but like, yeah, I still do for colors. But but yeah, like, and so my whole family knows her. You know what I mean? Not that we know her every life, like we're part of everything, but like I could send a message to her and she was like, oh yeah, Jose, blah blah blah, right? She stopped a group of people at a convention. The first time I ever went to SuperCon, I went there just to see Afua and to see Sid, who also went to the Cuber School with me, and she's done some coloring for Silverline. And I sat there, and I just stood there waiting because Afua had a line, and so I was just waiting. Like I was gonna waiting my turn. She's like, "Can you guys all wait a minute?" Left, like put them all on pause, went out of her booth, and came out and gave me the hugest hug. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to see you." You know what I mean? I was like, "Dude, that's so awesome." Like I didn't say nothing. I didn't wave at her. I just waited patiently, right? But she took 45 minutes at New York City Comic Con to help me understand perspective. Wow. Like while I was going to the art school, yeah, the way she does it, she was explaining how she does perspective, and then I was like, oh my, like I know that I'm stopping your sales and stuff like that. Please, like she's like, no, don't worry about it. Like we're okay. I was like I would much rather help you with this. I was like, holy cow. So yeah, love her so much. My whole family loves her. Like I love that. And so I try at conventions, I try to do the same thing. You know what I mean? I try if I have something that I know that I'm gonna share that. Like, you know what I mean? Like I know some people, like when I've asked them going to shows and stuff like that, like, oh, like how did you do this? Well, I just pick up a pencil and draw it. Like that's not very helpful.
Right.
Like I understand that there's fundamentals and whatnot. I'm just asking, how was your take on this? How did you go into this? You know what I mean? So that I can learn a little more and, maybe adapt a logic or a nugget of your logic into my process. You know what I mean?
I forget who it is, and it may be more than one, but there are some creators when they're reviewing portfolios, they have a tissue overlay and they take a panel and they say, here's what you should do. It's like, what you did was this is how I would approach it. And they basically just redo the panel lightly in pencil in 30 seconds or whatever.
That's what Jan and Tom would do in our narrative class.
Yeah.
We'd have to put tracing paper over it, and then they would go and, lightly pencil it. And I'm like, how did you figure that out? Like,
which teacher is Jose?
Tom and Jan.
Last names?
Tom Mandrake, Jan Dursema.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Very cool.
The Dursema too, but man, Mandrake. I saw a pitch from him. I think it's Dan Mishkin. Dan Mishkin and Tom Mandrake had a pitch floating around like 20 years ago that I still wish I'd published because it was awesome. But that's way off track.
No, Tom is great. Like Tom, it's funny because I set up my paperwork, my 11 by 17 paper and whatnot. I set it up to and did my. you have the blue lines, but it doesn't always follow within the blue lines. You have to adjust, right? And so I adjusted it, and Tom's like, "Why did you do your page like that?" I was like, well, "That's the way Jan told me to do it." He's like, "No, she didn't." I was like, "Yes, she did." Like, "No, she didn't." Like, I guarantee you, she didn't. And so I'm like, so the next day or the next time I had class with Jan, I was like, "Hey, I set this page up and whatnot," and I talked to Tom about it. He said that I didn't do this correctly. Will you check to see if I did it right? And she's like, "Oh no, you didn't set that up right." And I'm like, shoot. So the next class for Tom, I was like, "Tom, I just want to come and apologize."
I hate it when mom and dad fight.
Right? I was like, "You were right. Like, I should have listened. But I was so confident that I had done it correctly, and I'm really sorry." And obviously, he accepted my apology. But yeah,
that humility is awesome, man. That sets you apart.
You didn't want to explain your process and why it was important that you do it that way?
Right. Right. This was my style.
Oh my God. I think that is the perfect note to leave tonight on. We hit that 1 hour mark, and I think that sums it up nicely and brings us back. Jose, Tom, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
You're very welcome. Thanks for asking.
Really appreciate it. Loved having you guys here, and when we do 90s comic trivia, I would love to have you guys on. So
I'm coming. I'll get back for that.
So cool. Everybody else, thank you for spending your evening with us here at Silverline Wednesday Wham. And something that we like to say before we log off for the evening is make mine Silverline. Thanks for coming.
Hey, this is Paul Pelletier. Make mine Silverline. Is that okay, Roland?